We are now gathered here today to join in our dreams and ambitions at the Council of Shonen. Hi, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I want to be Pirate King. I'm Naruto, and I want to be Hokage. Boobs. Denji, that's, you're supposed to tell us your dreams. Boobs. What are you, is that your boobs? Those are kind of, a little, you gotta have to work.
Chainsaw Man is an anime that you can tell from the very beginning feels different. But much of that difference stems from its protagonist, Denji, who's unlike many other protagonists we've seen so far in shonen battle anime. And I'm not just saying that just to say that. There is something about Denji that is both charming and intentionally off-putting. He's not a character we aspire to be, and he's not a character that's completely relatable due to how simple-minded he can be, but he's also a character we can't take our eyes off of. Literally, he needs to be supervised at all times. But he's actually at the heart of what makes Chainsaw Man so compelling by being what writers recommend your protagonist shouldn't be. Denji is a reactive protagonist, and normally in writing you're told that a reactive protagonist usually doesn't make for a strong or engaging protagonist because by definition, a protagonist should be the one that drives the story, that makes it move forward, like Luffy from One Piece or Naruto from Naruto, that set the journey forward based on the goals they want to achieve, while a reactive protagonist just has things keep happening to them and responding to them without any of their choices really affecting the plot. So far, throughout the first 8 or 9 episodes, none of the things that have happened in the plot are a direct result from plans Denji made or things that he set out to do. At first, he was used by the Yakuza with the incentive of paying off his debt until they no longer needed him. He was used by Power to go save her cat, and then he was used by Makima to go after the Gun Devil. He's serving other people's agendas. Denji is still doing it because he's getting something out of it and it's what he wants to do, but it doesn't empower him to make a change in his own life. He's just being led by the nose. He's putting his trust in these people to keep their word and give them what he wants that will lead him to happiness, instead of figuring out what that truly is for himself and going out to get it. And now he's being actively hunted by devils who just want his heart, which gives him much less choice in the matter. Now, that's not to say Denji didn't make choices in most of those instances, but those choices were no-brainers to him, because he's been conditioned to accept so little in life that anything he gets now is still better than what he was getting before. And the choices were limited anyway. It was either go work for public safety or face death. This is why Denji has been continually likened to a dog. First we hear it mentioned by the Yakuza who enslaved him with an insurmountable debt, and then by Makima who wants to use him to meet her own ends. He does what he wants, but it's only within the confines of wherever his owners place him, and he's not allowed to stray too far or else he'll get punished. However, the choices he did make were far from meaningless. What they did serve to do was characterize Denji and show that at his core, he is kind. He put Pochita's life before his own by first offering his blood to him, and then offering his body to him if he died. He also genuinely wanted to save Power's cat and chose to cover for her when Aki questioned him. These subtle moments show us that there's more to Denji than just his crass exterior. Okay, so we've established he's pretty clearly a reactive protagonist, but how does that make him good? As we've seen, Denji clearly has the will to achieve what he wants when he really wants it, but his fatal flaw is that he's limited by his shallow desires that make him take the easy path that leads to immediate gratification rather than a long-term sense of fulfillment, as we can see after he got to touch Power's breasts. Because figuring that out for yourself takes real hard thinking, which Denji hasn't realistically been at all equipped to do. However, this is what allows him to give us our most fascinating lens into the world. Due to who he is and how little he's been given in his life, Denji doesn't have much of a goal aside from getting his basic needs met, and it's the simplicity and overall unawareness that makes him almost unfazed to the chaos unfolding around him. To the people around him, Denji just seems crazy and willing to throw his life away for things that are so trivial for the cost involved, and this helps to make him come off unhinged and unpredictable to those people around him and even the devils around him. In reality, he's just fiercely fighting for the life he's never had because normalcy is unknown to him, and so he idealizes any chance he can get to do things he's perceived as normal, even though that can be a little skewed. Unfortunately, his lack of education and interpersonal relationships have severely stunted him in what he actually perceives as normal. He's been conditioned to accept terrible things and eat terrible food that it's just all more of the same. This makes him having nothing to lose and only things to gain. In a In a world where we've been shown things can abruptly change and bodies can drop at a moment's notice, sane people would break. Even getting into a contract with the devil is essentially becoming a slave because you forfeit a part of your life to them. This makes the stakes feel very real and severely stacks the odds against humanity. So someone like Denji, who's unaffected by the horror surrounding him, keeps the tone from ever getting too bleak, and he's able to dish out the same amount of chaos back. He just needs to be placed in situations, and by being himself, he can take it in any direction because he says and thinks honestly about what he wants to do, where others would themselves hold back. He has no shame. Pochita gave Denji a second chance at life in exchange for showing him his dream of achieving a normal life and experiencing all the things a normal person gets to experience. Before that, Denji just kept dreaming but not doing anything about his situation. He was just resigned to his fate. What Pochita did was give him the means to break free from his chains, and with these chainsaw powers, nothing or no one can hold him down. Now everything is according to his own terms and his own volition. Because of this, using the dog motif, he's like a feral animal just freed from his cage. He can no longer be beaten into submission. He's constantly trying to fight the forces that are trying to rob him of his freedom, so he seems like a wild animal trying to fight off being domesticated. That's why people like Makima need to resort to psychological manipulation in order to use him to do their bidding. Because as he learns more of what he wants and how to use his powers, the more difficult he becomes to restrain. But while Pochita might have freed him physically, it's his mind that remains trapped in what he's been conditioned to accept from life. He can't suddenly break free from this mindset overnight. Denji does things, but he doesn't necessarily have great reasons to do them, and it's in finding those reasons and what's important to him that Denji is able to develop. So I think the story will become less about Denji changing and more about him learning what it means to be normal. Being so reactive, he's constantly put in a position where he's trying to fend things off so he can just be a normal 16-year-old boy, because there's nothing really inherently wrong with Denji. He was just dealt a really bad hand, and he's just so deprived of any notion of what's in good taste. He's also always had to do whatever he can. So while a reactive protagonist might not normally work because they lack the agency to affect the things around them, when the point of the story is to show how much or how little the protagonist has been allowed to do in their lives, then Denji serves as the perfect illustration, because any little bit of development will feel like a monumental step forward. Also, Denji doesn't need to have much agency when his heart literally makes him the focal point of the story, because it itself makes him a living MacGuffin for all of the devils that want him dead. So even if Denji doesn't always drive the plot, he makes the plot drive straight toward him because of how willing he is to rush headfirst into chaos for the things that others would consider mundane. And it's exactly this freedom to choose however you want to live that I think is at the heart of Chainsaw Man.